So, welcome to this session and the conference How to Map Stuff. My name's Tony Jones. I'm just doing a session with you today on the use of Survey 123, which is an ArcGIS app to create map-based worksheets. And what I'm hoping to cover today is a quick welcome, then an overview of why Survey 123 is such a crucial tool. Welcome to this session and the conference How to Map Stuff. Okay, I apologise for that. I'll explain that in a moment. So, I'll do an overview about why Survey 123 is such a crucial tool for us in our school. Then we'll look at the end product, and finally I'll look at how we produce those field apps for those people who need that. And I'm leaving that to the end because I'm anticipating some of you will already know that. So here in New Zealand, which is where I am at the moment, it's increasingly common for meetings to begin with what is referred to as mihi whakatō, which is a welcome in the language of Te Reo, which is Te Reo Māori. So, no mai haere mai ki te hui virtual tēnei rā, ko tēnei te wā ki a o, ko tēnei te wā ki a mātou, ko tēnei te wā ki a te matanga o. Ko wai o, ko Tony Jones o ho, no Ingarangi o ho. Tēnā koe Mark Hoffman, tēnā koutou katoa. So, that mihi whakatō was recognising the special circumstances we're in at the moment with COVID-19, and it recognises this is, for many of us, a new beginning, and certainly in this context, this is a new beginning for me. I never dreamt that I would be doing a session in an online conference, but these are special times, and I'm really grateful to Mark Hoffman for giving me this opportunity. So, first of all, a bit of an overview about who we are. So just under 2 years ago, I was appointed to a position in school to be responsible for developing a curriculum that was culture responsive, field-based, and could lead to a university entrance qualification. And around about the time that I was considering that appointment, I was on a field trip with GNS, Geological and Nuclear Sciences in New Zealand, and they took us to this place off the coast of Auckland, a place called Piha, and I saw this particular footage here, this brilliant photograph, and I couldn't help but take a photograph and put it straight onto Facebook with on a physics Facebook page with the caption single slit diffraction, and almost instantly people were responding with likes and how good it was, and then one or two people started to question whether or not it was diffraction, whether it was refraction instead, and this really healthy debate came about in a way that you would never get in a laboratory situation. If we were to see that particular pattern in a ripple tank in a laboratory, people would just recognise it was single slit diffraction. But because it's nature and there are other forces acting other than the single slit there, and it's not a very simple single slit, then people started to put different interpretations on it. And that's when I realised that one of the things that's missing from high school physics and high school science in general is that rich debate, which is not the case when we are in the field. We have a lot of debate in the field. So I was really motivated by the concept of setting up a field-based course. And so that's what I did. And the school that I'm working in, as I say, is in New Zealand. And we have a system where students gather credits, and they need a minimum of 60 credits to get a university entrance qualification. And that's from a whole range of subjects. So we devised this course from which we could get 48 credits using field-based experiences, and so the other 12 plus would come from more theoretical sources. And the way in which we set up this course is we use these four main subjects. One thing about the university entrance qualification, there needs to be students need to demonstrate a minimal level of competence in at least 3 subjects, and they do that by getting a minimum of 14 credits in 3 subjects, and then make the balance up however they like. So we went for these 4 subjects here, and you can see just on a quick glance that how those credits would have been put together. So in the PE, sort of outdoors, a no-brainer. Earth and space science, we did practical investigations out in the field, similarly with biology and physics, and then the geography will be pretty obvious as we go on how that became important. You can see here we're using problem solving using ArcGIS, and we use Survey 123 with the students as well for that particular set of credits. This was how we then put together our first term of 2020, and we followed this term that's just gone. And you can see that the blue areas are where we take the students out overnight. So the week 2 we had a 3-day 2-night camp. Week 3 also a 3-day 2-day camp. The red areas are day trips, and so approximately between each of the overnight trips we do a couple of day trips as well. So a large number of trips going on. We managed to stick to that program until week 8, and then COVID-19 hit us here in New Zealand, and we went into lockdown. So we missed the last 3 weeks of that program. These are the places that we take our students to, and as I know many of you are from outside of New Zealand, this won't have a lot of meaning, except some of you will probably be aware of the very first one, the Tongariro crossing. That picture to the left is the one section of the Tongariro crossing, and we'll be talking more about that later. Underneath the Tongariro crossing is the Mangatapopo Valley. We'll be talking quite a bit about that, and underneath that the Northern Circuit, and I'll be referring to that as well. So I imagine that for many of you, you're understanding that there will be constraints on this sort of program, the cost and the volume of students. And the volume of students is really what I want to focus on today. And what I mean by that is when we are doing field trips with students, partly because of the cost, we tend to have large numbers of students going out, and that makes instruction quite difficult, gathering people together in the outdoors. And I want to show you how Survey 123 has helped with that. But first of all, the cost. We use the DOC system here in New Zealand, Department of Conservation. They have a number of huts, and those are free or near free for under 18. So that sort of sorts out our costs in terms of accommodation. We just have to get our students to those places. But we are limited as to where those places are. They are out in the bush or out in the mountains, and so consequently we have to make sure that our program fits in with that environment. So these are just a few snippets of the places that we've taken our students, and we'll be focused on those little orange dots. Those little orange dots are what appear on the map when we use Survey 123. So when we use Survey 123, we don't need to have any coverage, and we use them out in the mountains, put our information onto the app, and then it's automatically downloaded when we get back to school and locates where we've been. We can use Survey 123 for doing a whole number of activities that lead towards the accreditation I mentioned earlier. So transits and a whole range of other options are available to us. One of the things that is a big part of the assessments that we do is around the measuring of water quality. And without going into too much detail, the students that I'm currently working with come with a certain set of challenges, and one of them is that if we get them near water, we can't get them out again. So this particular module, in the first year we did, and then in the second year we changed it to winter time, and we had a lot more success getting them to do that. So here's a student putting his information into Survey 123. In this case, he's done a pH measurement and then he's putting that information into Survey 123. So how do we use this Survey 123 effectively? I'm going to walk you through what I would be doing with my students. So here is the ArcGIS dashboard for my school, Tierra Chica Academy, and in here there are a whole number of apps that we can work from, and so we're interested in Survey 123. So what will have happened is I will have made a whole number of apps. You can see these apps here. Just for your information, this Field Trips here app is the one that I use for my own personal use. So what happens is I go out in the field, and wherever I am, I'll put information into that particular app, and then I will use that information later on to make apps that are student centred. So here's the app I referred to earlier. There's the Tongariro Crossing and Mangitipopo Valley. We actually do a couple of different field trips in that region. So there's another one here on Mangitipopo as well, but we're going to look at this one. And because I've already been in the field and collected the data, when I open up that particular app, that data is there waiting for me. So you can see those orange dots again. Those are showing places that I would have been to as part of that particular field trip. And I've got a choice of base maps here. We choose the New Zealand LINZ topographic, possibly for obvious reasons, but I'll be going into a little bit of detail on why we choose that in a moment. And for those of you not familiar with New Zealand, this is the North Island. Right in the centre of the North Island is Lake Taupo, which is a pretty significant lake that we have. It's actually a caldera, explosive volcano. And then we've got a series of volcanoes down here, which are stratovolcanoes. And that's the area that we're particularly interested in. So you can see there's this accumulation of orange dots which indicate places that I collected data, and you can now begin to see some of the things I mentioned earlier. So Mount Tongariro and Mount Ngauruhoe, the gap between them is, or the saddle between them is a classic part of the Tongariro Crossing. The Tongariro Crossing forms part of this circuit, which is the Northern Circuit, and it's traditionally a 3 to 4 day hike. 1 day's hike to this hut, 1 day's hike to this hut, 1 day to this, and 1 day to this. But some people can do it much quicker. Now, what we do is we do a number of trips in this region, which include this one I'm going to look at right now, which is the Mangitipopo Valley. And hopefully you can see here one of the benefits of using this particular approach in terms of the quality of data we're getting. So this valley here is a classic U-shaped valley. It's a glacial valley formed about 300,000 years ago, and at the time of forming, Mount Ngauruhoe wasn't there. Mount Ngauruhoe is around about 7,000 years old. So this valley would have continued up here. This glaciated valley would have continued up here, and then subsequently Mount Ngauruhoe was formed. So a bit more detail now. You can see that because of the quality of these maps, steep-sided valleys, steep-sided on that side, steep-sided on this side, slightly steeper on this side, and I'll be explaining later one of the reasons for that. And each of these spots are places of interest that we want our students to visit when they go on the field trip. Starting from Mangitipopo, these dots here are coming from the car park, which students can practice using Survey 123, and then the true trip is along here. And I'm just going to concentrate on one point here. So when I click on it, any information that I've put into the Survey 123 comes up, and I'm just going to focus on the photograph that I took there. Because this photograph is something which I want to put on my worksheet so that students don't miss this particular point. What we have here is a rather thick lava flow alongside a pyroclastic flow within this valley which has been glaciated. And the history around this is that lava from Mount Tongariro backed up when it reached the glaciated valley. The valley was at the time had a glacier in it, and so when the lava met the glacier, the lava started to back up, which is why we have this thick lava flow. And when we look at this in detail, we can see evidence of chill margins demonstrating that the lava came into contact with the ice. And then approximately 7,000 years ago, Mount Narahoe started to erupt, and this is a recent one, 1970s pyroclastic flow. So a lot of information here for the students, and we don't want them to miss this. So what I would do traditionally is I would just get a snapshot of that, and then I go back to here. I would then insert that into this point here, so that if my students start to spread out along here, I don't need to worry too much about pulling them back, calling them all into one space, that classic let's all get together, tell everyone the same thing at the same time. Because I know that when they get to this point, there's going to be something waiting for them in terms of instructions, and it should be fairly straightforward for them to find some basic map reading. They're following the stream here. When they come away from the stream, then they know it's not far before they reach this particular outcrop that I'm interested in. I can use the various tools in here if I wish to add information. So I might say stop, take a photo, etc. I can give them some brief instructions, and then I can say stop 8, and then I can give some detailed information about stop 8 to them later on. You'll have your own preferred tools for putting information onto photographs and any other sort of way in which you get this information onto a worksheet. So just remove that. So the worksheet, clearly you could do that for various places along here. What I want to really emphasize here is that the information that I'm putting on is purely to get the students to where I want them to be, and for me to check that they have done the things that I'm hoping for them to do. But it's the quality of the map itself that comes from ArcGIS and Survey 123 that is really of greatest benefit to me here, that the students can find these places without too much map reading skill, and I can ensure that they are seeing the information that I want them to see, even if I've got large numbers that are spreading out along that valley. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the product that we could end up with. What I want to look at now in the 10 minutes that I've got available is how we set up those apps. So Survey 123. I'll just go back just in case people are not familiar with ArcGIS. ArcGIS is made available free to schools here in New Zealand, and I understand in other parts of the world. I don't know, obviously the people who are tuning in today, I don't know what your backgrounds are, but I recommend that you just contact ArcGIS. My experience with them has been really good, been really helpful. We have regional representatives for ArcGIS who encourage teachers and schools to use their products. So this is the page. This would be a dashboard. This is the dashboard, as I said before, for my school, and this is the place that you need to go to get the various apps. And we're going into this survey 1, 2, 3. So these are the apps that I've made, and they are remarkably easy to make. So we're just going to make one now live, and we'll call it how to do map stuff. And so I've got to give it a tag. So this is the start of my app, and I can use this menu over here to put anything I want into my app. So generally for myself, I want to have a photograph early on. So I get students to, whenever they stop, to take a photograph. And so I click on image, and in this place here, take a photo. And I can have it as a required question or not. Whoops. And I generally, well, I want them to take a photograph, because if nothing else later on, it reminds them of where they were. So I can also put some additional information in here if I chose to do so. Okay. Now that could be my app. That could just be that wherever they go, they take a photograph, and then that would, when downloaded, would show the little orange dot that you saw before. When you click on the orange dot, you'll be able to see the photograph as I showed you. But we also want some text from the students. So summarize what you see. And again, I'm going to make this a compulsory question. And then this is really useful here as well, to put a time and a date on it. So when the students open the app, they'll be invited to do the tap on the calendar, and that will then automatically date and time the event, so where they were, and that's useful later on when they're trying to remember, what days they did these things on, particularly if they're backtracking over the same place on consecutive days. So again, I'm going to make that compulsory. So I'm just going to go back one more time into add to just demonstrate that there are lots of different options in here to make your app as complicated as you like. But I find that if we've got a photograph and a space in which to write some notes and a date and time, for most situations that suffices. But you can really tailor it to your specific field trip. So one of the field trips we do, that other Mangitipopo trip I told you about, we are looking specifically at vegetation, and so I can tailor my app around the different types of vegetation that we're seeing in that area. So all I do now is submit. And then the next thing is publish. So publish. And that's it. I don't need to do anything else. And hopefully once this publishes, it will come up on my dashboard, and you'll see that we've got this new app. I can then access that on my phone, my students can access it on their phone. I'm just picking up my phone now to see whether or not it comes up on there, so I can just demonstrate that to you. So successfully published. If I go back to, there we go. So there's how we do our map stuff, and we can put our own photograph in there if we choose to do so. We just go into settings and put our own photograph in there. And I'm just seeing if it's come through to my phone, and at the moment I don't think it has yet. No, but I can show you that this is what I made earlier, and when I tap onto here I get the opportunity to collect data. Hopefully you can see that, and there's the app. There's a little icon there for taking a photograph, some information I can put in, and then this particular app was made a bit more complicated. It was looking at water quality, and so there were some prompts for students there. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm just going to see if I can now get into the chat. Icon there for taking a photograph, some information I can put in, and then this particular app was made a bit more complicated. So I see we've got some people here from Indonesia. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm just going to see if I can now get into the chat. And you'll see that this is unfamiliar for me. I'm now talking on my OBS and on my YouTube. I'm going to get rid of YouTube, and just thank you for being here. Thank in particular Mark for this opportunity, and I encourage you to enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.